Jaya Prabhupada Vishistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namah Vishnu Shakaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Kuti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Shri Kaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gauri Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shamukund Radha Kundi Giri Govardhana ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Mathura Dham ki jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai, Puri Dham ki jai, Gandhamaya Jumani Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada.
There's no water.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradari Gopi Janaballabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvrajagacharya Asatara Sadashri Shrimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Vrindavan Dhamma ki jai, Mathura Dhamma ki jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dhamma ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dhamma ki jai, Gangamaya Jamuna Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktarinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nirvasesis and Nivadi Paskatyade Satarne. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Dev Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpa Chivascha Kipasindhaviyavata Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnava. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, so it's June 9th, 2018 in Radhadesh, Belgium, and we're going to be reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 20, Bali Maharaj Surrenders the Universe, text 24 to 33. And these are quite some verses. Okay. 24, and we have 32 on the board. So 24. Bali Maharaja saw beneath the garments of the Lord, who acts wonderfully, the evening twilight. So his garments must have been somewhat transparent. You could see through them. So evening twilight. Can anybody tell me anything about the evening twilight?
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Anything else about the evening twilight? Anything from the Bhagavatam? Remember about the evening twilight? Huh? Okay, Nrsingadev appears in the evening twilight. Excellent, because it's not the day or the night. Anything else?
Personified as a beautiful lady.
Yes, the evening twilight personified as a beautiful lady to bewilder the demons, who were good guess, but not that one. Who were going after Lord Brahma. Remember, Lord Brahma created these demons, and they were interested in enjoying him. So he created this evening twilight as a beautiful woman, and this distracted them. So where's the evening twilight?
Under the Lord's garments.
Under the Lord's garments. Okay. In the Lord's private parts, he saw the Prajapatis. So who are the Prajapatis? Yes, what do they do in the universe? They make all of us, right? Okay. In the round portion of the waist, I wonder what exactly is the round portion of the waist. Sanskrit just says on the waist. He saw himself with his confidential associates. Who else saw themselves in the universal form? Yasoda. So when Bali's seeing himself, is he seeing a vision of himself or a picture of himself? No, he's actually seeing himself. How do you see yourself? Lord Brahma talks about this to Krishna. He says, Mother Yasoda saw that all of us are inside your belly, but yet I'm standing outside of you talking to you. So how can I be talking to you when I'm inside your belly? Who can understand this? This reminds us of the verse in the Brahma Samhita, Ekopisorachaitam Jagadanda Yat Shaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayaranta Andantarasta Padamanu Chayantarastam. This is one of Sadhuputa's favorite verses. So I don't know if they have it in this country, but in America, when I was a child, we used to buy butter, and on the carton of the butter, there was a woman dressed as a Native American holding a carton of butter on which there was a woman holding a carton of butter, on which there was a woman holding a carton of butter, on which there was a woman holding a carton of butter. So the Lord is in every atom. Yes? Can everybody picture that? You get some kind of a picture of that the Lord is in every atom? Everybody can do that? More or less? More or less. All right. Then within the Lord is the universe that's made up of the atoms in which the Lord is situated. Can you do that one? No. Our mind goes fizzle, fizzle, pop, pop. So this is the situation that Bali is seeing the Lord, but he's seeing that he's in the body of the Lord. How is that? He's actually seeing that he's not seeing a vision, he's not seeing a picture, a projection, a reflection. He's seeing that he's in the body of the Lord. It can completely inconceivable. So are we all in the body of the Lord?
Yes.
Interesting. We're like little cells in the universal body. Right? Okay. Along with his confidential associates. In the Lord's navel, he saw the sky. So it's very common that the Lord's navel is associated with the sky. By sky here, it doesn't mean air, because we already talked about the air. So sky is calm or ether, the most mysterious of the gross elements. We're talking about how time is the most mysterious of the material elements, but among the gross elements, the sky is the most mysterious, because it's very difficult. We understand sky just by what surrounds it, right? Isn't it? But without sky, nothing has any meaning. Everything has its place in space, isn't it? Well, for many years I had no home or no base, and I noticed for the first time in my life that the one question that strangers are very willing to ask one another is, where are you from, or where do you live? I'd never noticed that before. And when I didn't have a ready answer, I became very aware that was, anybody feels free to ask you that. I mean, anybody, any stranger, whatever. And about 1 out of 10 people, when I would say, I don't live anywhere, I just travel, they'd push it. And they'd say, but where do you spend most of your time? And I'd say, well, I don't know, which month? You know, just. And they would keep asking, where do you stay when you're not traveling? And I was wondering, why were people so insistent that they had to place me? The first thing they wanted to know was geography, and some people just couldn't accept that they didn't have a geographical place for me. And I thought, whenever we want to understand anything, we first want to understand where it belongs. What is its place? Yes? And ultimately, without a relationship with Krishna, one cannot understand anything. Just like without space, one cannot understand anything. Space also, it gives meaning to everything in another sense. So, one time one of my daughter-in-law's children, when the child was very young, took all the keys off the keyboard of her computer. I was talking to her about this recently. She just turned 13. This is when she was like 2 or 3. She said, I wanted to find out what was under them. So my son was able to put the keys back, but the space bar didn't work. So my daughter-in-law's typing me messages with no spaces. It was very difficult to understand. Without spaces, you cannot understand language. When we're speaking without pauses, one cannot understand. In music, without space, one cannot understand. Similarly, without Krishna, one cannot understand anything. No, very subtle. So space is very subtle, but it gives understanding, gives meaning to everything. So in the same way, Krishna gives meaning to everything. This way we can go from Krishna's energies to Krishna, yes? That's the point. Okay. I'm going to ask you at the end if you can remember any of these. There's a lot of them, so you should be able to remember at least a few. Now we have again in the Lord's waist. So I don't know what's the round portion of the waist? What's the waist? On the Lord's waist he saw the 7 oceans. So that's interesting because we have 7 oceans on this earthly globe, but Bali was on another planet. So it's not these 7 oceans. It's not talking about, the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, the Arctic. I think actually there's more than 7 oceans if you count all of them. And then there's little tiny ones here and there that you might count as seas or oceans. But these are the oceans in the universe. And there's an ocean of sweet water, salt water. What are the other ones? Sweet, salt, ghee, milk, liquor. I'm not sure about nectar. Yogurt. There's a yogurt one. Maybe nectar. I don't know. We're missing the 7th one. So those 7 oceans. And Sariputta has done some diagrams of how these oceans are in the universe. So, you wonder how that works because, like, the salt in our ocean preserves the water. You all know that, right? That sweet water will eventually spoil. You all know that, yeah? That's why we have mosquitoes in Hawaii. Because, who was it? One of those circumambulating the globe people. I don't remember Vasco da Gama or Captain Cook or anyway, one of those people. They came to Hawaii and they needed to change their fresh water. They needed to dump out their fresh water and get new fresh water. But guess what their old fresh water had in it? Mosquito larvae. So by their grace, we have mosquitoes in Hawaii. Otherwise, there'd be no mosquitoes there. I mean, there might be now, anyway, with all international travel. They brought mosquitoes to the island. All right, so on the Lord's waist is 7 oceans. And we wonder, how does the milk ocean not spoil? I don't know. Or an ocean of yogurt? It would be odd swimming in an ocean of yogurt, huh? How do you swim in an ocean of yogurt? Like on this planet, on the Dead Sea, you can't swim, you just float, right? So. On the Lord's bosom, he saw all the clusters of stars. So, of course, these stars are all personalities. Arundhati, the wife of Vasista, she's a celebrated star, Prabhupada says. That doesn't mean like a rock star. It means she's actually a star. So the stars are all, each of the planets and stars all have predominating deities. They're all personalities. Actually, everything in the universe is a personality. Okay? If I had to read the word for this, we would end class at 10 o'clock at night. Okay, next few verses. This is 25 to 29. So I'm just reading the English. My dear king, on the heart of Lord Murari he saw religion. All right, so that's, the Sanskrit here is dharma. So what does dharma mean? Here Prabhupada's translating as religion, but many times Prabhupada explained what is dharma. Well, there's ultimately Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma is our eternal dharma, but what does the word dharma mean?
That which sustains.
That which sustains, yes.
Beauty.
Well, certainly it includes beauty.
Duty.
Oh, duty. Yes, one's duty. Of course, the word duty is a little difficult because the word duty can invoke modes. It's
Constitutional position.
constitutional position. Any other idea of the word dharma? It's the intrinsic nature of something without which that thing wouldn't be that thing. It's like if water wasn't wet, it wouldn't be water. Yeah? That salt is salty. It's almost like a circular reasoning. If it's salt, it must be salty. If it's liquid, it's got to be liquid. It's the essential quality of the thing without which the thing is not the thing. It's the quality that defines the thing. So duty is a funny word. You know, when we look at what is a person's nature, Krishna really hounds on this in the Gita, that we have to work according to our nature, and that if we try not to work according to our nature, we'll do it anyway. That our choices are whether we use our nature for illusion or truth, but we don't have a choice, do I use my nature or not? That's not an option. And so, even materialistic people, when they're looking at, how can we do work that's suitable for us, they say one of the ways you can say your nature is what you do automatically without being paid, without being asked, and often without even being aware that that's what you're doing. So that's not exactly a duty, because it's what you just do. So I'm going through the second draft now of a book on spiritualizing career with a co-author. I think I mentioned this the other day. And in one of our chapters, we're looking at nature and nurture, and how do you tell what a person's nature is? And with children, it's often what the parents find very annoying in the child is usually indicative of the child's nature. Why? Because you can't stop it. And if a child doesn't know how to use it properly, there's nothing no punishment, reward, lecture, anything stops it. And some examples I can give. So one child I know, his family was always telling him, mind your own business, mind your own business. That's all he was hearing growing up. He had a very difficult time focusing on what he was supposed to do, but he always knew everything that everybody else was supposed to do. And his parents and his siblings found this an extremely annoying quality. Then he went on the Polish tour, and he was managing the whole stage program. And the devotee said to me, this is the best devotee on the whole program because he always knows what everybody is supposed to be doing all the time and manages everything perfectly. But in his family, it was very annoying because nobody wanted him to manage the family. You understand? Yeah? So often, or the story that I tell about myself, I don't know if I told this here before. So this was something my parents told me over and over and over and over again. That when I was 3 years old, I first went to school, to like nursery school, and the teacher complained to my parents. What do you think the complaint was?
Stop her talking?
Couldn't stop me talking, but what was I talking about? What was I doing? I was talking about Krishna. Jai Prabhu. Next life in the devotee school. I did tell people I wanted to find God, but I didn't hear the word Krishna until I was 12. What do you think I was doing? Come on, what do I do? I was teaching, exactly. And so the teacher was very irritated. And the teacher told my parents, your daughter is impossible because she refuses to be one of the students. She's always trying to be the assistant teacher when I was 3. And my parents told me this as something very bad. I mean, I grew up with this as this was a really terrible thing that I had to fix. And they would remind me of this over and over again. Whenever I'd act like a teacher, they'd say, when you were 3, your teacher complained about you. You have to stop this. I mean, it wasn't until I was 24 years old. Imagine this. 24 years old, 21 years later, when I met Jyotirmayi, that she said, oh, let me teach you how to teach. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So that's Dharma. Dharma is what you do spontaneously. It's not a duty that's imposed on you by somebody else. It's not that someone comes, this is your Dharma. But Dharma means what you do naturally, done according to Shastric principles. And that's true at the lowest level, if we're talking about Varnashram Dharma, and it's true at the highest level when we're talking about Rasa. So there's all different variations of Dharma. And where was this Dharma in the universal form? Anybody remember without looking? Heart. Heart. Very good. It's the heart of the Lord. On the chest, both pleasing words and truthfulness. So pleasing words and truthfulness are two of the 5 elements of the speech. What of speech? The austerity of speech is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Truthfulness and pleasing words. And what are the other 3? Beneficial. The content is not agitating. The content is pleasing. And based on the Vedas. So it should be true. It should be a pleasing truth. The words should be pleasant, not harsh language. It should benefit others and based on the Vedas. Of those 5, what do you think is the most important? Nope. Nope. Beneficial. Truth based on the Vedas that's pleasing with sweet words that doesn't help anybody is not useful. It's not what we want. Things should be helpful. If someone comes to you with their marital problems and you start reading to them this portion of the Bhagavatam, that's not beneficial for them. You follow? Oh, well, yeah, you know. The Prajapatis are his private parts and the evening twilights under his clothes, and now you have all the marriage advice that you need. In the mind, the moon. So the moon is always associated with the mind. Why is the moon associated with the mind? It is intelligence. Yeah, but intelligence is a little different than the mind. Well, the natural position of the mind is to be soothed and calmed and still. But what does the moon do? It's cooling, but there's something the moon does that the mind also does. What? You crazy? Yeah.
Reflecting.
It's reflecting, yeah. The mind reflects one's belief system.
It's getting the juice,
Makes the vegetables juicy, okay. There's something else it does.
Cycle.
It goes through cycles, yes, there you go. It gets bigger and smaller. Doesn't your mind do that? Am I the only one who has a mind that does that? Goes very fast through the zodiac. Every 28, 29 days it goes through the whole zodiac. Okay, now I'm in Taurus, now I'm in Aries, now I'm in Capricorn, now I'm in Aquarius. Now I'm big, now I'm small. On the bosom, the goddess of fortune with a lotus flower in her hand. So this is one of the marks of the Supreme Lord. This is how you can tell the Lord as opposed to those in Vaikuntha who have Swarup Siddhi. So when Gopakumar went to Vaikuntha, as we read in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, right, he saw the residents of Vaikuntha who have Swarup Siddhi, and he's, oh, Vishnu, Vishnu. No, I'm not Vishnu. I'm a servant. Okay. Then he goes to the next gate. Oh, Vishnu, Namo, Namaha, Namo, Namaha. No, I'm not Vishnu, I'm a servant. This kept going on and on and on. And finally the chief of the gatekeepers takes him aside, says, look, only Vishnu has the Srivatsa. And the Kaustuba is only Vishnu. That's how you can tell. You have to look at his bosom. On the neck, all the Vedas and all sound vibrations. On his neck. So why do you think on the neck? That's easy. That's where we have our voice. So the Lord's voice is the Vedas and all sound. Krishna also says this in the Gita. That he is the sound in ether. On his arms, all the demigods headed by King Indra. Why do you think Indra and the demigods are on the Lord's arms? The management. Indra is the chief Kshatriya in the universe. Thunderbolt is Vajra, weapon. Whereas Brahma is the chief Brahmana. You never hear about Brahma being in the battles, right? I mean, he watches them, but I never heard about him fighting in them. whereas Indra fights him. In both ears, all the directions. Any idea why the directions are in the ears? Sound. Yes, sound is how we are able to discern space. Do you know that there are some cultures in the world that do not have language of left, right? They don't have any language like that. They only use directions. So they'll just say, you know, turn east and go north. And by the time their children are 8, they always know where all the directions are. On the head, the upper planetary systems. On the hair, the clouds. So sometimes the trees are compared to the Lord's hair, but here he's got the clouds in his hair. And this reminds me of, you know, sometimes you see mountains that are up in the clouds, right? The tops of the mountains. In the nostrils, the wind. You know, so when I breathe, I'm sure little bugs find it windy. I'm sure there are little tiny insects that, when we're breathing, thinks it's a huge storm. But when the Lord's, right? I'm sure it's like that. They're like, oh, I gotta get out of this storm. We have to fly away out of our breathing. But from Krishna's nostrils, there's a big storm. On the eyes, the sun. So the sun is often compared to the eyes. Why is the sun compared to the eyes?
You need the sun to see.
You need the sun to see. And first the Lord has to see. This is described in the second canto with the universal form. We can only see once the Lord sees. Remember, in this universal body, we're like a cell in the body. It's like we're compared to the universal body, like the cells in our body are compared to us. So only when I see can the cells in my body be aware of what's going on. In the same way, only when the Lord sees can we see. And that's understood by the sun. Only when the sun is there can we see. In his mouth, fire. Why is the Lord's mouth compared to fire? Fire of digestion, yes, but something else. The Lord's mouth is compared to fire all over the place in the Bhagavatam. No, it's a.
He devours.
But what is he devouring specifically? Yeah, well, that's a different. That's a time. He's not. This is not the form of time. He's devouring something. Sacrifices. When we throw the grains into the fire, the flame is understood to be
Vishnu's tongue.
Vishnu's tongue. Yes, Vishnu's mouth. When we're throwing the flames in the fire, we're throwing in Vishnu's mouth. From his words come all the Vedic mantras. And there's a wonderful explanation, which no way do we have time to give today, about how that the Lord's words enter into the Muladhara chakra of Lord Brahma and gradually come out through the mouth of Lord Brahma, going up through the chakras as the Vedic mantras. On his tongue was the demigod of water, Varunadev. So what happens if you have a dry tongue? You can't taste anything. So the ability, Krishna says, Rasoham apsukanteya, I am the taste in water, and without liquid there's no taste. That's true for all of the sense perception. If our eyes are dry, we can't see. If there's no wax in our ears, we can't hear properly. Mucus in our nose, oil on our skin. All of the senses have some liquidity involved. On his eyebrows were the regulative principles. All right, let's see if we can. So, vidhin. Aha. So on the eyebrows, bhruvaho, nishedam cha vidhim. So the warnings and what Prabhupada calls the rules and regulations. What you should do and what you should not do. So why would that be on the eyebrows? I think we use our eyebrows like that too, right?
Yeah. It's less ironic rules.
Do we use our eyebrows to tell people what to do and what not to do? Yeah? Do we? Krishna talks a lot through his eyebrows, actually. He often talks through his eyebrows. And he loves it when the devotees get what he's trying to say just with his eyebrows, so he doesn't have to speak. Krishna tells us what to do and what not to do with his eyebrows. On his eyelids were day and night. When his eyes were open, it was daytime, and when they were closed, it was night. And this reminds us, of course, of Lord Brahma. When he's awake, everything's going on. If he takes a little nap, everything becomes chaotic. Kind of like what happens if you have very little children. Any of you who are parents, right? If you have very, very little children, if you take a nap, you may not be very happy to see what's happened when you wake up. So when Lord Brahma takes a little nap, there's a partial devastation in the universe. Right? Or you can think when we sleep, our bodily functions slow down, right? Metabolism slows down, breathing, heart rate, temperature, everything. And so as soon as the Lord closes his eyes, then everything is also quiet. When he opens them, it's day. On his forehead was anger. Do we do that too? Anger on our forehead? The Lord's not without emotion. You know, it's not that the Lord is always like, We're really boring, wouldn't it? You know, after about 30 seconds, you'd be like, really? But the Lord's anger is a rasa. It's loving anger. It's not envious. It's not, you know, our material anger is one of the gates to hell. And on his lips was greed. That's another gate to hell. O king, in his touch was lusty desire. So we have materially, trividam narakashedam, dwaram nasanamatmana, kama krodas tatalobas, tasmadeto atwayam twajet. Krishna says, of all the demoniac qualities, beware of lust, anger, and greed. If you can't remember all the demoniac qualities, so many, how am I going to, you know, at least lust, anger, and greed. Give them up. That doesn't mean to repress them, by the way. It means to ignore them and just watch them and not act on them. Neither love them nor hate them. So how is it that Krishna has anger? Where does he have anger again? Forehead. Where does he have greed? Lips. And where does he have lust? Touch. So how does the Lord have anger, greed, and lust?
Because he has everything.
He has everything. But his anger, greed, and lust are all beautiful. You know, he's Akila Rasamrita Murti. There's some, you know, we wouldn't go for these things if they didn't have some hope of enjoyment, isn't it? Do people try to enjoy anger in this world? Oh yeah, that's why they go to political rallies and sporting events. Have you ever seen people at political rallies and sporting events? I was once in a devotee's house where probably he was in his 20s, their son was watching some sporting event on television. And at one point he jumped out of his seat and he's shaking his fist at the television, yelling at it. I thought, that's not going to work very well. But that's the enjoyment. That's why they do it. They go to these games or to these political rallies so they can get angry. That's the whole purpose. You understand? Otherwise, why go if you're just going to be mellow the whole time? Please give us higher wages. Please cut taxes. Then nobody would go. They're like, give us higher wages, cut taxes, right? Sometimes they get so angry they start fighting with each other and breaking things, and the police have to come in riot gear and stuff. So people are trying to enjoy these things. And then, you know, a lot of these business people and financial investors, they're really getting into their greed more and more and more. Get the money so fast I don't have time to count it. And they're trying to enjoy these. What to speak of people trying to enjoy lust? We're not going to talk about that. But people have the idea that they're going to enjoy these things, and they actually increase their anger. They do things to increase their anger, increase their greed, increase their lust. But materially, all these things degrade us. But with Krishna, it's actually ornaments. In his semen were all the waters, which give the life to everything. On his back, what was on his back? Irreligion. Of course, Krishna's back is also very nice. It says Krishna's back is hankering for the touch of his devotees. And in his wonderful activities or steps was the fire of sacrifice. On his shadow was death. Krishna often says that he's death. Prabhupada says if you don't accept God as God, you accept God as death, where he takes everything. In his smile was the illusory energy. Now this is how we cannot be bewildered by Maya. Remember we were saying Maya is just within the mind? Chapter 14 of Krishna book. If we see, oh, this is just Krishna's smile. Lord Kapila Dev in the 3rd canto says that of all the things we should meditate on, the most wonderful is the Lord's smile and laughter. So if we meditate on how Maya is Krishna's wonderful energy, wow, so amazing that Krishna can illusion people to think he's not there. How funny is that? And that's his smile. And on the hairs of his body were all the drugs and herbs. And Krishna also says this in the Gita, that he is the healing herb. You know, often modern science, they try to extract the principle from the herb, but they can't do it. It doesn't always work, right? Sometimes you just have to use the whole plant. In his veins were all the rivers. On his nails were all the stones. In his intelligence were Lord Brahma, the demigods, and the great saintly persons. So again, his arms were the administrative demigods, but his intelligence were these higher demigods. Lord Brahma, the rishis, unlike Janaloka and Tapaloka, the 4 Kumaras, they're in his intelligence. Because they're the Brahmins of the universe. They give guidance to everyone. Throughout his entire body and senses were all living entities moving and stationary. That's us. Bali Maharaj thus saw everything in the gigantic body of the Lord. Text 30. O king, when all the demons, the followers of Maharaj Bali, saw the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who held everything within his body, when they saw in the Lord's hand his disc, known as the Sudarshan Chakra, which generates intolerable heat, and when they heard the tumultuous sound of his bow, he must have been twanging it, all these caused lamentation within their hearts. So the Sudarshan Chakra, which generates intolerable heat. So sometimes the Sudarshan is compared to the sun, and these are all persons. So when there's many times the Sudarshan Chakra shows up in Krishna's pastimes, even in the Govardhan Lila, Kavi Karnapur said that the Sudarshan Chakra was drying up the water so it wouldn't go under the hill. And of course, when Sudakshina was angry at his father's death, and he caused the great demon to come out of the fire by the tantric priests, the evil priests, and this great demon went to Dwarka to kill Krishna, thinking that Krishna was an enemy of the Brahmanas, because he could only kill someone who was not a Brahmana or who was not favorable to the Brahmanas. And he thought Krishna is not favorable to the Brahmanas because he's a Kshatriya, but he lets the Brahmins worship him. He's supposed to be worshiping the Brahmanas. And when this great demon came there, the Sudarshan Chakra, who's there as a person, Krishna is just playing some game with his associates. You know, this huge demon comes, and Krishna just indicates to his Sudarshan, take it. And Sudarshan drove away the demon, and he became as hot as all the suns at the end of the universe, burning the universe, and destroyed Kashi, and pushed the demon back to Kashi, where he killed Sudakshina. And then we have the chakra, of course, chases Durvasa. When Durvasa plays his manipulative games with Ambarish, Durvasa pulls out this demon from his hair to kill Ambarish, because Ambarish drank a little water before he did. You don't know religious principles. And how do you know religious principles? You're a Brahmana and you're going to kill your host for drinking a little water. Good thing that we don't have such strict standards of being a host today, right? We'd all be dead. And then Durvasa's traveling all over the universe and even to Vaikuntha, and the Sudarshan is chasing him, chasing him, chasing him. And then finally, Durvasa comes back, and Ambarish offers wonderful prayers to Durvasa Muni. It's also in the 8th canto. So it's absolutely wonderful prayers you can read for Sudarshan. And his bow, his Shanga bow. So these are all persons. 31. The Lord's conch shell named Panchajanya, which made sounds like that of a cloud. So, and Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu was blowing the conch shell very loudly the other day. But didn't quite sound like thunder. Not quite. So Krishna's conch shell sounds like thunder. And we know when Krishna and the Pandavas blew their conch shells, what did that blowing do? Shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Did the Kuru's conch shells have that effect on the Pandavas? No. In Manipur, they play conch shells during the kirtan. You know, in Manipur they have kirtans following Narottama Das Thakur. And also in Manipur they have lady kirtan parties that go from temple to temple and do kirtan, and then the head of the temple gives them money and cloth. I don't know what they do with all that cloth. Every temple they go, they get another chadar. Keep the chadar makers in business. But anyway, so they have these lady kirtan parties, but only the men play the conch shells during the kirtan. And they play 2 at a time. Big, big conch shells. Great big, and they're going back and forth. And they're playing it really like a musical instrument. The very forceful club named Komodakai. So it's described that how should one meditate on Komodakai? The Komodakai is always what? Smeared with the blood of the demons. So there's also a ghastly rasa. Prabhupada says if you want to enjoy the ghastly rasa, you can meditate on the Singadev. You can also meditate on this club covered with blood. The sword named Vijadara, with a shield decorated with hundreds of moon-like spots. Sacha Chandra Yuktaha. Many, many, many moons. So there's often this comparison with this many moons, like Lord Nityananda's lotus feet are like many moons. So the shield of the Lord, just imagine the shield of the Lord. It looks like it has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of glowing moons. And also, Akshayas Yaka, the best of quivers. So we know that Arjuna had a quiver that would never be depleted. So I'm sure the Lord's quiver is like that. Again, these are all persons. All of these appear together to offer prayers to the Lord. So the Sudarshan Chakra, the Sharanga bow, the Panchajanya conch shell, the Komodakai club, the Vijayadhara sword, the shield that has all the moon-like spots, the Satya Chandra Yukta shield, the Akshaya Shayaka quiver, they're all offering prayers. All right, now we have text 32, which is on the board. Sunanda Mukha Upasasturisham Parshada Mukya Sahaloka Palaha Spurat Kirtidanga Mina Kundala Srivatstarat no Tama Me Kalabarai. So I don't think we'll all chant. It's too many verses. Is that all right? Okay. And I'm not going to go through the word for it. We'll be here till late. So this is 32-33 translation. These associates, headed by Sunanda and other chief associates, and accompanied by all the predominating deities of the various planets, offered prayers to the Lord. So we have all the Lord's weapons are offering him prayers. Then we have his associates like Nanda and Sunanda, and the predominating deities of all the planets. They're all surrounding him, praying to him. We have a similar thing, of course, when Krishna shows Arjuna the Virat Rupa. Right? He sees everyone praying to him. And a similar thing when Lord Brahma sees all the cowherd boys and the calves manifest as Vishnu forms. Right? You all know that? All the living entities. And it says down to the straws. The straws were praying. I don't know how that works. But anyway, they were all praying to the Lord. Offered prayers to the Lord, who wore a brilliant helmet, bracelets, and glittering earrings that resembled fish. So at the end of this class, you please look at this nice painting here. So Krishna has Meena Kundala in this painting. He has fish-like earrings. Generally, Krishna's earrings are not compared to Meena, but to makaras. Makaras are not technically sharks. They're a mystical being. Sometimes, like there's a painting in Moshe of a Ganga on a crocodile, and sometimes the crocodile is understood, but the makara is not really a crocodile. Sometimes it's translated as crocodile, sometimes as dolphin, sometimes as shark. It's the symbol for Capricorn, the sign of the zodiac, Capricorn, the Vedic symbol, and it's some being that we don't have on this planet. So the makara is the carrier of the Ganga, the carrier of Cupid, and Krishna likes to wear these makara earrings. Mahendra Prabhu, who used to live here, he had makara earrings made for Gopinath. So he's not wearing them today, but there are makara earrings that were made for Gopinath. And but here he's talking about fish earrings, so we can see fish earrings in this painting. Gokulananda in London has some beautiful fish earrings also. On the Lord's bosom were the lock of hair called Srivatsa, which we read about already in the universal form. So seeing the universal form, and here there's the same description, that the goddess of fortune is on the Lord's bosom, and the transcendental jewel named Kaustuba. So the Kaustuba is said to be the residence of all the living entities, and it's said to be shaped like a small calf. He wore a yellow garment. Now, though it's usually yellow, often the Sanskrit is talking about saffron color. So it's kind of this, if you take saffron, you get this kind of goldenish yellow color. If you take actual saffron. What we usually use, this color is really, I know if you get the Rit dye, it's actually tangerine color. This is not a plug for that company. Ravindra Sarup Prabhu wrote a whole article about what is real saffron color, which I'm sure is still online. Covered by a belt. So Prabhupada named one of my god sisters servant of the belt. So these are all persons, all the Lord's ornaments. These are all devotees. And he was decorated with a flower garland surrounded by bees. So what's the significance that there's bees around the garland? Okay, would bees go around this garland? No.
So those flowers
Not flies would, but not bees.
So the flowers were still alive.
The flowers were alive. The reason that the bees are around the garland is that the flowers were alive. Manifesting himself in this way, O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities are wonderful, covered the entire surface of the earth with one footstep, the sky with his body, and all directions with his arms. Purport. One might argue, since Bali Maharaja promised Vamandeva only the land occupied by his steps, why did Lord Vamandev occupy the sky also? In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami says that the steps include everything, downward and upward. When one stands up, he certainly occupies certain parts of the sky and certain portions of the earth below his feet. Thus, there was nothing uncommon for the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he occupied the entire sky with his body. So, of course, the Lord is very tricky. 3 steps included where his upper body was, too. Right? So he's very clever in this way. Please give me 3 steps, but my body is covering the whole universe, and that's part of my steps. So now I've got everything. All right, well, we've come to the end of our time with all these very long verses. So I'd like to just go around, and without looking, please tell me something that you remember. Starting with you. The sky is in his navel. Good. So please today, when you look at the sky, remember that it's inside the Lord's navel. Yes, what do you remember? Yes, you. You don't remember anything. Okay. So your home fun assignment, we don't give any homework, we give home fun. So your home fun assignment is to pick something from here and write it down like about 20 times, one thing from here that you like, and say it over and over again to yourself today, and see it in the world. Okay? That's your home fun assignment. And yes, Rupa Manjari, what do you remember? So you have the same home fun assignment? You pick something from these verses, anything from these verses, write it down 10, 20 times, like sky and navel, sky and navel, sky and navel, sky and navel, sky and navel. And then during the day, every time you see the sky, navel, 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 navel. What do you remember?
I remember when Krishna moves his eyebrows, it's some rule there because he wants to express his
Yes.
emotion.
Good. The eyebrows are the rules and regulations. And we're going to switch over here. But what do you remember? What do you remember?
No,
You also remember nothing. You have the same home fun. I must have given a terrible class. I give myself an F- as a teacher today.
I
So,
haven't fresh memory, so
this is my fault as the teacher. If I were to have 3 people who don't remember anything, that means I did a very bad job. So you have the same home fun assignment. Please go through these verses, find something, write it down 10 times, repeat it to yourself, and try to see it in your day. What do you remember?
Anger was his forehead.
Anger on his forehead. Very good. Whenever you hear or see anybody becoming angry, you can remember, that's Krishna's forehead. Yes, what do you remember?
Clouds.
Clouds were
His hair.
in his hair. So when you see the clouds today, you can say, that is Vamandev's hair. Yes?
Fire was his mouth.
Fire was his mouth. And whenever we see fire, right, in the ghee lamp, someone's lighting the incense, or in a fire yagya, remember that is the mouth of the Lord. What do you remember?
Eyelids or day and night?
What?
Eyelids.
Eyelids, day and night. So you can remember when it's daytime. When it's daytime, you can think, Vamandev has opened his eyes. When it's time to go to sleep, you can think, now Vamandev has closed his eyes. Yes? The twilight. Where was that? Was under the Lord's clothes, right? It was. You could see it under his clothes. So when you see the twilight every day, you can think, I'm getting a little peek under the clothes of the Lord. And yes, what do you remember?
Suns are his eyes.
The sun is his eyes. So when you see the sun, you can think, the Lord is looking at me. And what do you remember?
It was just said already.
Oh, there's more. Come on, something else? You think about it for a minute. Yes?
Veins and rivers.
The veins are his rivers. All right, so we don't have very many rivers here, but down the street there's a little stream. So maybe that's a very small little vein. And you came very late, so I don't know.
The lips are greed.
What?
Lips.
Lips are greed. Whenever you feel greedy or you see anybody being greedy, you can think, that's the Lord's lips. And you came very late, so I don't know.
But I heard before somewhere else that hairs are his forehead or something like
The herbs. The herbs, medicines.
Okay.
So whenever we have any herbs or medicines, we can think, this is the hairs of the Lord that are giving me health. And you, Prabhu? What do you remember? Without looking.
Smile of Krishna is the illusion energy.
Oh, smile of Krishna is the illusory energy. So even when I'm forgetting Krishna and I'm in illusion, he's smiling. He's still there. Even in my forgetfulness and illusion. Do you remember anything else yet? The arms of the demigods, especially the administrative demigods. And this would be true even in our Urmila Kshatriyas. You know, when the government, the police is acting properly, this is actually the arms of the Lord. So these verses here in the Bhagavatam, they're not for us just to read in the class as a ritual. The purpose of these is for us to meditate on. So we should be picking something that we can grasp, that will make sense in our lives. That as we go through our life and through our day, we can be connected somehow with the Bhagavatam. That we start becoming ourselves living Bhagavatams. This is the idea, that it becomes part of us. Yes? So we've already gone over time. I'd like to thank all of you very much for having me here in Radhadesh and hosting me and taking care of me and being so kind to me and giving me facility to speak about Krishna. And I hope if I've said anything helpful, that you will bless me, and if I've said anything foolish, that you please excuse me. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That was mentioned in yesterday's. Oh, it was very good. I know. Almost everybody does This will help. Go throughout your day, think of something you can think of, let's see. And whenever your mind is jumping, when your mind whenever your mind is think, this is like the new moon, there's no line there. And that's like Krishna's. Can you remember Krishna in your forgetfulness? Use your forgetfulness to remember Krishna. Do you understand what I'm saying? Whenever I can't remember anything. Oh, I can't remember anything. That's like the new moon. And that's Krishna's mind. Can you do that? Good. Excellent. Excellent. Very nice. See? Krishna is there in our forgetfulness. That's right. He says that.
Yeah, okay, but who knows about mind?
Yeah, of course. Just be patient. I answer somewhere between 5 minutes and 3 minutes.
Okay.
If you write me a very long, some people write me like a 10-page, complicated thing. That was the 2 things. I just look at the results. If you write me a quick thing, that's
Ich kann es gar nicht.
yes. I actually want to write you a recipe. And it's Will Smith, I think is that. I think it's Will Smith. He's reading about Urmila. So he's another person you should check. I mean, that's Amy Big, you know. Why not? And there are devotees who work in the film industry.
Find somebody. This, yeah, my friend. Yeah, he is angry.
Then you walk and talk, because I want to get
How can you know where the knowledge comes from?
And when we speak about the question, do you like to speak sometime next week? Very good. Okay.
Hare Ram. Hare Krishna. Hare Ram. Hare Ram.
Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Rama.